listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, we have another show lined up for y'all today. We have a special guest. Her name is Lynita Mitchell-Blackwell. She has a website you can go visit. It's LynitaMitchell-Blackwell.com. We're going to learn everything about what she does. And man, first and foremost, I want to welcome her, Lynita, to the show and say, how you doing?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Appreciate your time. So today's topic, we're going to touch on the keys to living a life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment. But before we do that, kind of give the audience a little bit of your background because you have an impressive resume. You have, 5+ magazines? Tell us a little bit about your life.
Certainly. So thank you very much for that very warm introduction. I've had a wonderful life. Great parents, siblings, supportive community, and they supported me to be who I am and where I am and how I serve today. They gave me the keys to what we normally think about worldly success. If you work hard and get good grades, you will be recognized and you will get a good job. And eventually you'll be so good at your craft, you can go out and start your own business. All those things I did. So checking the marks off, right? And I got really used to hearing, oh, Lynita, if you're just so wonderful. Oh, we love having you on our team and we're going to reward you, award you, recognize you from here to yonder. And I loved it. I'm not going to sit here and lie. And I used that momentum to build, as you said, a media company that published 5 magazines, a publishing company that published 9 best-selling authors, including myself. I published 5 of my own books, and I have had the opportunity to speak all over the world. The problem with all of this is that I did not learn how to take care of me. And by that, I mean, I was so caught up with all these accolades and my dreams coming true that I never considered for one moment what would happen if my dreams turned into a nightmare. And my body told me before anything else that something was wrong. My hair started breaking off and I just started wearing wigs. My nails started splitting. I just got acrylics and blinged them out. And my skin started to deteriorate. And so I just started wearing really heavy makeup, but that was the end thing. And so it was not until my daughter found me passed out one day in the middle of the floor, exhausted. And I could not get up off the floor to put her to bed. She was only 6 at the time, that I knew something had to change. But I did not know what to do. I didn't have the tools or the resources to make a change because all the things I was involved in were positive. And up to that point, I believed that if something was good, then you stuck with it. And if it was bad, then you pushed it away. It never crossed my mind to consider that things that we're involved in need to be evaluated on an ongoing basis to ensure that they are consistent with our mission, our vision, and our values, which change over time. And so it wasn't until I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, which is the uncontrollable growth of uterine cells outside of the uterus, that I realized that I was going to have to get help outside of me. And so I hired a performance coach and she had me list everything that I do. And it was 7 pages, single space. And she was like, you got to get this down to 2. And it took a couple of years to do that because, you know, when you're involved in things that really make your heart sing, you like the people. And so you don't want to leave people hanging. And so it was transitioning and training. And sometimes when people just would not accept that I was leaving, it required me to just step away and let the chips fall where they may. But through all of that, I was able to develop a process that redefined what success really meant. And it wasn't stuff because I had acquired plenty of stuff. It really was understanding that it was peace, joy, and fulfillment. And, don't get me wrong, I like nice things too. I love my home. I love putting gas in my car, right? So I'm not telling people to just throw their lives away and everything that they've done to work for success. What I'm saying is that can no longer be the measure of it. It has to be something more. And so that's really what I do and what I'm passionate about.
And being happy is it's a skill set that is underappreciated in today's world. When did you discover that it was possible? Because it's one thing to say it and think it, but it's another thing to actually find a system that works best for you.
Yeah, so the moment I realized that I could be happy was the moment I realized that happiness was fleeting and that happiness was not exactly what I was going for. I really wanted joy. And the difference between the two is that happiness, someone else determines whether you're happy, some external circumstance. You're happy if the sun is out and you're sad if it's raining. So that means the weather is going to determine your feelings. And I just could not accept that, not after everything that I'd gone through. And I was like, I need to be content, joyful, no matter what is going on outside. And so that meant that I would have to set my own standard and pull in from gratitude and be thankful to have the opportunity to enjoy the day, whether it's raining or not. And to stop right there, because many of us would then take the next step in saying, well, at least I have eyes to even see the sun. But again, that's an external measure depending on somebody else's circumstances. This joyful ride is about us. Joy is an inside job. And so it means that we can feel our gratitude well by the smallest things, being thankful for 2 hands, being thankful for 10 fingers and 10 toes, being thankful to breathe the air. And sometimes we're in places where it's not all that fresh, but we have a nose to bring it in and we can let it out through our nose or our mouth. And as we develop that gratitude well, it means that we have a place, a reservoir to dive into, no matter what is going on, and particularly when we are going through challenge. And that is what I have had to do, because as I have gone through life and in practicing law, and sometimes, meeting people on the worst day of their lives, they are trying to make plans for a person transitioning in their lives, or they are looking at separating from someone who they thought they spend the rest of their lives with. That meant that I couldn't be sucked into what they had going on. I had to stay in my peaceful place and let them see that as an example. And hopefully they would try to stimulate that joy within their own lives.
And as someone like yourself knows, you have to start somewhere. Professionally, when you start your career, start a business, is usually you have to start from scratch. You have to build your way through the whole process. Mm-hmm. When you face the challenges you face, how did you push yourself over those hurdles so that way you didn't stop short of your goals?
Yes. So the things that I wanted to accomplish, even in my personal life with having a family, and I was like, well, is that really about the people that I can serve and help to become more joyful, soulful people? Or is that about me and my desires and my hopes and my dreams? What about them? So that was the first thing that I had to do. And I had to get people involved with me. And so I told my close friends and my family so that I would have a support system. And I also hired a soul coach to help me to stay on the quote unquote straight and narrow. And by that, I don't mean that she is like telling me what to do, but rather serving as a safe space to talk through what is going on at the time, because many of the things and the people and the circumstances that I was involved in, if this day I were to call and say, hey, let's get back to doing what we were doing before, they would be like, oh yeah, let's do it, and excited. But that is not consistent with my mission at this point in time in my life. And that is to share this formula, the keys to living a life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment. But it doesn't mean that I don't think about those things from before, because they were really cool. It was fun. I mean, one of our magazines, Bold Vapor, we were covering red carpet for the Soul Train Music Awards. So it's not like when we stopped publishing that we were leaving because people were asking us to go. We were at the top, or it's like my granddaddy used to say, we left while the crowd was still cheering. But the crowd is cheering, but I wasn't cheering for me, because my health said that we had to do some different things because we had a lot going on.
When someone gets frustrated, one of the easiest things is to make excuses. And there's always a buffet line for you to choose for one. How did you use your frustration as opportunity to reevaluate what it is you need to do to go over that dark cloud?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So the first thing I had to realize was that frustration, i.e. anger in disguise, is a righteous emotion. And by that, I mean, a lot of the times we try to swallow what we are feeling because we don't want to offend. We want to continue to fit in. The problem with that is that unexpressed emotion becomes dis-ease in the body. It becomes illness. I know, because that's what I went through, because I was frustrated with the way that things were going, because I could not explain why I was getting ill, but little things would happen and then they would turn into big things because I wasn't expressing myself, and I was robbing myself of my power and actually giving it to somebody else. And so once I realized that to be angry didn't mean that I was out of control, it didn't mean that I did not have the final say over what would happen, and it didn't mean that we weren't going to be friends anymore. It just meant that I was dissatisfied with the way things were going. And so I started to speak up. And I wasn't angry. I didn't cuss people out. I was forceful. I was direct. And sometimes we were able to work through things, and sometimes we were not. But at all times, I was empowered and in my own power to live the life that was authentic and genuine to me. Because I'm going to tell you, everybody else is living the way that is authentic and genuine to them. So you can either get on that train and live your own life that way, or you can continue to be hijacked by other people and dissatisfied, and sometimes wind up ill with all these various things that are going on, like high blood pressure, and that can lead to stroke. And I was like, I can't have that, because I want to see my daughter graduate from high school. And so for that to happen, I was going to have to be the best me that I can be.
Once again, talking to our guest today, Lynita Mitchell-Blackwell. You can go to our website, LynitaMitchell-Blackwell.com. And we're talking about a special topic today that I think everyone can learn from. It's the keys to having a life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment. Someone listening right now, and they're like, okay, that sounds perfect. But the true test is when life happens to you. And sometimes there's no way to prepare for those tests. You just got to find a way to get through those situations. Mm-hmm. How did you find a way to react different than what you used to, so that way you weren't stuck in, those dark times?
So the way that I did was to realize that every circumstance and situation was for me, whether good or bad. And that instead of looking at challenge as this horrible thing, we've all heard the saying, every cloud has a silver lining. Well, if the challenge is a cloud, imagine yourself as the silver lining. And that this opportunity is for you to learn and to grow and to expand into something more than where you are right now, what you are right now. And once I got that message, it became very easy. Now, I will tell you that sometimes implementation of that is hard. For instance, my accountant, who has been doing my taxes for literally over 20 years, so she's seen the entities be founded, grow, transition, sold, all of the rest of it, right? She made a mistake on one of the returns. And so I got the letter from the IRS, sent it to her. I was like, hey, can you contact them and see what needs to be done? And she wasn't reading the letter. And I could tell by her responses. And, I saw that as an opportunity to have the broader conversation about, okay, so what happens next? Because you're a solo, and I know you're getting ready for retirement. So what happens once you shut things down? Who are we transitioning to, or do I need to find someone else? And it was jarring for both of us because, like I said, we've been together all this time. She has given some of the best tax strategies. But the reality is she's a little older than I am, and she is coming to that place where it is starting to come to an end. And the result of that was this mistake and her response indicating that she hadn't read it. And while there was sadness there and frustration there, there was also peace because I accepted the way things are. And once you get there, it gives you a jump off place to be in your power to now take a step in action that recognizes your truth. And the truth is, I got to find somebody who can do my taxes. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, that's good because a lot of times we can be our worst enemy. And when you look at the opportunities that you are able to teach people how to live life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment, let's touch on those three words, peace, joy, and fulfillment. What does peace mean for you when it's all said and done?
When it's all said and done, peace is this feeling that I have in the core of my being, that area between the bottom of your lung and the base of your pelvis. And it is a tingling, knowing that all is well. And so notice I didn't say when I'm in my home, I'm with my child or my husband. Even though I'm happy in those moments, I am peaceful within myself. And I get to that tingling feeling of wholeness and fulfillment by being in gratitude. And so I drop into that all day, every day, various times during the day.
We all have a desire, and sometimes for some people it's not easy to define that desire. Would you say that that's part of our frustrations in life, is that we are not defining our desires that are truly meant for our purpose?
Oh, you just preached a whole word, Shemaya. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Going back to our standard for success, we have been taught to reach for perfection. And perfection, if you look at the word in the dictionary, it is meeting a standard. But who set that standard? It wasn't you. It was given to you by well-meaning people, and it was the best they knew. And so they were giving you their wisdom to live your life and hopefully for you to have something better. But it also meant that we don't take the time, I didn't take the time, to really appreciate whether those standards that somebody else gave me fit me, who I am today. And so I had to get to the place where perfection, that's a no-no. I'm not trying to live up to anybody else's standard. I have shifted over to excellence, which means I establish my own standard and I give myself grace for it to be a sliding standard. Because what was excellent in my 20s is not excellent now in my 40s, and it surely will not be excellent in my 60s. And it shouldn't be. It should change. And it's going to depend on the circumstances that I am going through. That in itself is liberation times 100.
When you look at the success you've been able to sustain And when you look back, what do you feel that people should pay attention to when they're trying to build their legacy? What's one thing that you try to focus on so that way that's your North Star?
Yeah, so for me in building my legacy is being able to live a model life. But I really want your listeners to understand that that model is for me. It is really digging into gratitude and exemplifying that. And when people ask, not volunteering, but when they ask, sharing what I am doing. And if they don't ask, just treat them with love and respect. And as folks see that, they see the light. They see the joy on you, and they want to be around you. And I promise you, you lose nothing and you gain everything in your pursuit for the things that you say success means to you. I thought that it was going to mean that I would be ostracized and that I would have to work doubly hard for business. And that is not what happened. What has happened is that because I'm living this joyful life and I'm not trying to be all things to all people, that wherever I am in that moment right there, that I am fully present, people appreciate that. They recommend me, and I am still thriving. And I love it.
Yeah, that's key. Still thriving, because there's a quote that I used to read all the time until I graduated from college, and it's similar to a statement you mentioned about light, and it was by Blaise Pascal. He said, in faith, there's enough light for those who want to believe, but also enough shadows to blind those who don't. And
ooh, I love that.
I feel that the only way an individual can truly know their purpose and have the keys to living a life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment is if they lock into where the light shines versus what the shadows hide.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
When you have people wanting to learn from you, work with you, because you have webinars that you do as well, and you have a speaker kit, people can go to your website at LynitaMitchell-Blackwell.com. You have a podcast as well. I mean, you do a lot. I mean, you thought 5 magazines was enough, but you do a lot. Is it because you just flow with your passion versus question all your, future steps?
That's exactly right. I go with the flow. And flow in this instance is my intuitive intelligence. And we're all familiar with intellectual or the book knowledge, emotional, spiritual, and what I like to call the aggregate, which is all 3 of those combined. But then there's a step beyond that called the intuitive intelligence. And that is the knowing without anything in front of you. Some people call it faith, and that is fine. But it is being able to take steps based on what you're feeling inside and knowing that they're the right steps for you.
And we didn't say a whole lot to it, but you being recognized as a very accomplished lawyer as well. What some of the skill sets with that part of your history that you use still to today?
Oh, I still practice law. I've had my firm for almost 17 years now. So
okay.
I use all my skills, gifts, and talents, including the intuitive intelligence, on behalf of my clients. And I really understand that that is part of my magic, my success.
So you still practice law, is that right?
That is correct.
Wow.
Yes, I do.
Anybody thought they were busy need to meet Lynita, because wow, that's impressive. I thought you retired and you just do all this fun stuff, but you're still doing everything. So I would say, what would you generally say to any entrepreneur out there who has like one business and they think they're tired?
If you're tired, you need to reassess whether that is truly your purpose and your passion right now. When you got started, it absolutely was, or you would not have started the business. But remember, in living this excellent life rather than a perfect one, it requires us to reassess where we are. And if you're not excited about it anymore, it means that you no longer believe that you are the answer to the problem that you were trying to solve when you started the business. And so it's time to go into prayer and meditation and go within and see what your higher power has to say about it. And it's okay for you to start another business. I would love for you to give the one you're in right now another shot and try these practices of rejuvenation through gratitude and being present right here and now, and practicing silence so that you're not always communicating. Put the phone down for a couple of days and see what comes from that.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Lynita Mitchell-Blackwell. You can go to her website, LynitaMitchell-Blackwell.com. Man, you can tell people where to get your books, but easiest probably to go to her website and check out everything you do, because like I said, you do a lot of things.
And that's exactly right. My website is the road to me.
Once again, I want to say thanks to Lynita for your time talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me on your awesome show.